Let's talk about one of my favorite cards in the Major Arcana, which is the Empress. She is considered the earthly mother of the deck. That sense of there's another mother, which is the High Priestess. Very different vibe from each of them. The High Priestess can be a little bit cool because she can see both sides of the veil and have a little bit bigger picture. The Empress she is much more tending to the earthly needs. Now, this is still very spiritual type of energy, so it's not one dimensional because ultimately the Empress, this is from Pagan Otherworlds by Uzi. She is the Queen of Queens, so she oversees all of the queens. So she has integrated all of those types of queen energies from the Minor Arcana and has, quote unquote, mastered them. But, as we all know, there's both light and shadow aspects to this card. So that can mean different types of things, but sort of that ultimate feminine energy. And it's okay. This card doesn't have to relate to being a woman, but that ultimate feminine energy. And when I talk about that feminine energy, this is the Star Tarot, there is this sense of fullness, femininity. You see the full moon and that creatrix energy. So like pregnant with things, doesn't have to be literal pregnancy, but you can kind of see this blossoming orb in her womb space. So that idea of being that type of creatrix. And that's what I love about the Empress. It's like ultimate creator energy. Anything is possible, and it's for the love of making and creating, and that sense of that type of fertile abundance. It's really amazing. This one from Wildwood is called the Green Woman. So that same type of thing, that very lush energy, this full cauldron just filled with possibilities and very open to receiving ideas or seeds, however sensual you want to be about it. But she is generally a very sensual type of person. And it doesn't have to be sexual. I mean, it can be. We see some very sexual imagery in this type of card. But that feeling of, when you think about sensuality and that ideas are seeds, and if you're fertile, they can get planted in you and then you can channel them through you. So it doesn't have to be birthing children. It can be birthing ideas, art, anything out into the world, whether it's writing, whatever makes you feel juicy and fertile and alive. Whereas you are the vessel, though, like you are this cauldron. And there can be those moments. I know when I'm in my studio and I'm really having that sense of flow, I just love that energy. I'm like, oh, I wish I could even have more of it. But got to have the contrast. Can't have it all the time, or I wouldn't appreciate it. So, but when I'm in that moment, I love it. A friend of mine, Derek, who's a wonderful tarot reader out of New York, this is the card from the Shadowscapes. One phrase that he has for the Empress that it came up in a reading for me a year or so ago was that idea of wild growth. And I loved that concept. And that's what I see here with this Empress. Of she's just putting out all of these butterflies. It is not the Empress's job to say when enough is enough. She does not have to figure out what to do with all of these things that she's making. Now, in our minds are like, I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, but I do actually have to figure out what I do with the things I'm making. Am I sending them to stores? Am I photographing them to sell online? Yada, yada, yada. You kind of go through that practical side. And that's because you're not 100% holding Empress energy. But the Empress is partnered with the Emperor, and that doesn't mean you have to partner with someone else. It's just another facet of yourself that can come forward, and that is the Emperor's job. What the heck do we do with all this abundance? But the Empress's job is to manifest, make it, create it, all of those types of things. And that is just one type of energy to channel. And I find it's easier for me if I allow the flow of that creating energy, that wild growth, the unconcerned, quieting that inner critic, and just being in that abundance of that manifesting and going, yes, everything will be wonderful and all of that. And then maybe come back another day and flip the switch and go, well, now what do we do with all of these things, or evaluate them is, I keep talking about physical things because that's how I connect with this card a lot. And it does often manifest on the physical plane, but it can be many things. So it can be children, it could be food, it can be art, whatever types of like sensual things that you're creating and generating and connecting with. But that's what I come in and then evaluate, does this fit my style? Is this worth selling? What store could this fit with? Or, whatever. But don't let that come in and disrupt Empress energy, because she just loves being in the creation mode. She doesn't like the evaluating mode. So all the cards have light and shadow aspects, and you have to tune into that with your reading. Some people read that as reversals. I just actually don't read reversals, because I know that since every card has those dynamics and life has those dynamics, it's never quite as clear cut as sometimes we want it to be, that sometimes things just do intermingle a lot. Is that I just tune in and go, okay, where has this energy maybe gotten imbalanced? And so I see that one a lot with this card as well, is where this energy can go wrong is it can also become a smothering energy. That idea of a little overprotective, like, here, let me make more and more food for you and more cookies. And it's sort of like, whoa, like, you can make things, but you don't have to put them on other people, so like check in on that. Make sure you're not like putting your desire trip on someone else, or that you're trying to control their path somehow. The Empress is just beautiful energy if you can keep it clean and channel it through yourself, and be very generous. I mean, like I said, she's super abundant and it just has all of this generosity about her, but you don't have to like direct that on someone else and be like, here, take this type of thing. So that's where I check in on the energy. Always tune into whatever question you ask, what position this card landed in, and what your card looks like. I showed you a broad variety of 5 different decks that all of the energy is a little bit different with the Empress, but it does, I do always remind myself, she is the Queen of Queens. She is the earthly mother in that light cycle. She's the number 3, which is a beautiful light number. I often think of it as lots of creativity. When you look at the numerology of things, that 1 is very singular. You double into the duality of 2. Can have some polarization, if not conscious of interweaving those numbers. 2s can be a gate as well. And then 3 is what happens when you take 1 and 1 and combine them. A 3rd thing happens, and that's where so much magic can happen. And we see that literally when people have children. You're combining these genetics and this magic from 2 different people, and then seeing this 3rd being. It's never an exact combination that you thought. That 3rd being ends up having its own personality, although you can often see little facets of the parents in that being. And I have seen that myself when I had a business partner and we came together and created a store. Neither of us would have created that store on our own, so we combined our magic, and then this 3rd thing happened that we couldn't quite conceive of. So the Empress is sort of like that type of creativity, this master creatrix. So if you can have that vessel and be that sort of cauldron energy, I often think of this card as co-creating with spirit. What is channeling through you kind of gets mixed in your cauldron, and then you put it back out through the world and into the world and see what happens and go, wow, that wasn't quite what I imagined. That's why I love flow state so much, is you kind of bypass the whole imagining and you just get these inklings, these ideas, but you get making and creating, and then it just becomes this dynamic process. And you go, wow, I had no idea that was the path and the trajectory that I was on of what was coming through me. So that's why I love the Empress so much, is just that wild, abundant, creative energy. It can be really beautiful. And we also know from our planet, it can be detrimental. I mean, we have to be careful about overpopulation, sensitive about how many products we're putting out into the world, and, are they eco-conscious and all of that. The Empress doesn't usually take that into consideration because, like I said, she is just a creatrix, but there's other cards that could come up in the spread that might be like, okay, I need to be a little bit more thoughtful about this type of energy. Is there another way that I can consider it and approach it while still channeling that pure, clean, abundant manifestation, and not be so worried and shut down and fearful about it? The Empress is strong and powerful, Queen of Queens, doesn't worry about that sort of stuff, kind of lets other people worry about those things and how to make them happen. So see if that energy resonates for you, and if you get as excited about it as I do. I know not everyone likes that type of energy, but as somebody who identifies as an artist and a writer, I love it when everything is just flowing. Feels super good. So I'll talk about the other parent cards in videos soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I am recording a lot of these videos because I'm also getting ready to release an online tarot class with my girlfriend Rachel Lazarus. And so if you're interested in that, hop onto my newsletter over at tamingthetangle.com. The newsletter itself doesn't just pertain to tarot, so the other option is that you can always just message me and say, I'm interested in the class, but I don't want to be on the newsletter, and I can just put you on a separate list. But I'd love to have you join if you're enjoying these cards, because the focus of the class is much more about tapping into intuition and how to do readings, less about learning the individual cards, because it depends so much the messages that come through for you, what your cards look like, what pings for you, and it's learning to trust that and to be the oracle. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope to see you, whether in class or in future videos here on YouTube. Talk to you later.